annual Child Abuse Prevention Breakfast at the 89th Annual Georgia District Convention. I'm Lisa Glisson. I'm from Statesboro, Georgia. It's been my privilege to serve as president of the Georgia Exchange Foundation for the Prevention of Child Abuse this year. Timeout Teddy could not be with us today. He had a previous engagement, and we felt like, of course, that it was much more important for Timeout Teddy to be with the children that he serves than to be with us this morning. So we gave him a little bye this morning, but we do appreciate all the visits he makes during the year and what he does for our parents and children throughout the state of Georgia. I would like to introduce you now to the board members for the CAP Foundation. As I call your name, please stand. Audience, please hold your applause until all the board members have been introduced. Our Vice President, Ann Cruz from Hapeville, Secretary Ginger Pigler from Waycross, Treasurer Roland Middlebrooks from Macon, Dr. Bill Bailey from Hapeville, Scott Drew from Columbus, Betty Lindsay from Columbus, Ted Noe from Rome, Ralph Costian from Albany, Barney Knighton from Albany, Andrea Baldwin from Jackson, Ryan Shealy from Albany, Marty Smith from Dublin, and our immediate past president, Jack Roberts from Albany. Please join me in thanking these folks. Sorry, Brian. Typo there. You have been traded to a new team. Who didn't say that, did you? Sorry about that. The mission of the Georgia Exchange Foundation for the Prevention of Child Abuse is to assist the Georgia District Exchange Clubs with their startup of new child abuse prevention centers and help support the existing centers within the Georgia District. Exchange clubs across the 50 states and Puerto Rico have been making a difference in the lives of children through our continuing efforts in the area of child abuse prevention since 1979, when child abuse prevention was adopted as its national project at the National Convention, led by Dr. Ed North. Out of an estimated 10 million people in Georgia, 2.5 million of those are children. We have an obligation to protect them and help them grow up in a safe environment so they can learn and grow up to become productive citizens. We all hear horror stories throughout the year and almost see news on a daily basis of the bad things that are happening throughout the nation, much less the world. And it really hits home when you see those headlines in your local newspaper, which I'm sure that has happened to almost everyone in the room this year, your immediate neighborhood, where a child has been abused or neglected or is a fatality. When I read the statistics showing the increase in reported cases, which the number of reported cases from everything I have seen have been increasing over the past several years, it really causes me concern. I question if we really are making a difference. But I firmly believe that we are, because I think through our education and programs, the cases that were once unreported are now reported. And I think that's why those numbers are increasing, even though it's very depressing to see those numbers rise. We recently celebrated Child Abuse Prevention Month in April. I hope all of you had some programs in your local clubs. I'm sure you did. Please remember the color blue symbolizes the bruises that these children bear, sometimes visible, sometimes not. Please wear your blue ribbon with every opportunity, not just in April, but throughout the year, and take every opportunity to have the elevator speech, as we call it, to tell everyone you meet what that blue ribbon symbolizes. I'd like to first thank the golfers and the clubs that were hole sponsors at the golf tournament Thursday afternoon. If you play golf or your club was a hole sponsor, would you please stand? And I'm sure there's going to be a good portion of the room. Hole sponsors and golfers. Thank you so much. Please join me in thanking these folks. And Dr. Bill Bailey did such a wonderful job in chairing the golf event, so we're going to probably let him do it again next year. We appreciate all he does. Please remember we have a silent auction going on. It will close at 2:45 this afternoon. Also, the live auction was a huge success Thursday night. We thank our auctioneer, Tyron Spearman. Your president-elect was a wonderful auctioneer as usual. And through his efforts and your efforts and the things that you brought to the auction, we raised a little over $1,300 Thursday night. Thank you, Tyron, for helping us with that. At this time, I would like the representatives with us today from the CAP Center. And before I introduce them, if you're on staff of any of these affiliates or centers or serve on the board of directors for any of these centers or affiliates, would you please stand at this time? Staff or board members for all the affiliates, thank you so much for your service. We will present each of them a check this morning for $2,000. We know this is not a huge amount. I wish it had more zeros. But we hope that it does make a difference in your budget. We know that things are tight with your budgets and getting tighter every year. Unfortunately, I know you're losing a lot of grant money and a lot of federal and state funds, so hopefully it will help plug a hole somewhere. The first center started in Georgia was the Family Resource Center in Rome. Representing the Family Resource Center this morning is Mrs. Tina Martson. Tina was the executive director several years ago and was a National Exchange employee for several years before she went back to the center recently, and we're so glad to have her serve as executive director again. Tina, if you will please come forward and receive your check and tell us a little bit about what's going on in Rome.
Well, it is good to be back home with Georgia District Exchange Club, and just appreciate the support that you all are giving us with the foundation dollars. For those of you who don't know, the Exchange Club Family Resource Center in Rome was founded in 1991, and since that time we have continued to provide the exchange fair model to families that are at risk of abuse and neglect. Abuse occurs because families are overwhelmed by risk factors or they have few protective capacities. So I'm going to give you your child abuse one-on-one lesson here. Risk factors are those things that happen to families. A loss of a job, a family member who becomes ill, multiple children, a single parent, poverty. And it's important to note that poverty does not cause abuse, but it contributes to the stress in the family. Protective capacities you can think of as your hand when a parent knows how their child develops and different tools they can use to help that child grow. With our hands, that we are willing to sacrifice the things that must be sacrificed to give to our children and to protect our children. And with our heart, that we have empathy for them. Through the evidence-based exchange parenting model, we're able to teach parents things they can do to reduce those risk factors and help the parents learn ways to increase their protective capacities. And through those things, we help create safer families. You help create safer families because of the support that you give. In addition to our Parent Aid program, we also provide supervised visitation programs when a situation is so bad that the child needs to be out of the home to be protected. We can provide a safe, neutral environment for that child and that parent to interact. And we supplement that with parent education, the things that family needs to do to have the child return home. I'm very fortunate to have committed and skilled staff, a wonderful board of directors. We have a diversified funding base, and we're looking forward to growing. Very thankful to be an accredited exchange child abuse prevention program using the National Exchange model. And again, I just appreciate you all. If you have questions, if you're interested in starting this model, this center in your area, please see me. I can walk you through some of those steps. Thank you.
Thank you, Tina. And thank you, Exchange Club of Rome, for all your support of the Family Resource Center in Rome. Next, we'll hear from Dr. Fonda Thompson, Executive Director of Open Arms Incorporated in Albany, Georgia. Fonda has been with us for several years now, and we do appreciate the work that she does in Albany, and thank you, Exchange Club of Albany, for your support of Open Arms.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It's truly is a delight to be in your presence again this morning. I get to see all your beautiful faces at least once a year, and so it's such a delight to be here. Thank you to Tina for that update and giving you the one-on-one on child abuse, so I'll skip that part of mine. Thanks, Tina. You know that Open Arms, we are located in Albany, Georgia. And we have 2 shelters for abused, runaway, and homeless youth. The Basic Center program, where we house birth to 17-year-olds, and we take those kids actually off the streets. We get a lot of those kids through Department of Family and Children's Services, as well as Department of Juvenile Justice. And a lot of those kids come in at the hands of child abuse. We also have the Transitional Living Program, where we work with 18 to 22-year-olds. And all of those kids, all of those young adults are homeless and on the streets due to some type of abuse. And a lot of those young adults also have kids of their own. So we get an opportunity to teach them some basic life skills. So maybe in the process we can break that cycle. Over the last year, we've served residentially 46 youth. Non-residential, we've served over 4,000 youth. Because we're so vivid within the communities. We are the only shelters in Southwest Georgia that house abused, runaway, and homeless youth. And so, although we have been there for the cause, we are truly glad that we are there. I have with me this morning my Associate Executive Director, who is my right hand and who really, we work hand in hand with each other. I know without her, I wouldn't be able to do what I do. So Roger, if you would stand, please. She is truly a blessing. Also want to say a special thanks to the Albany chapter of the Exchange Club. You talk about people who have passion, people who care about not just Open Arms, but people who truly care about the children of Open Arms. And they do so much financially and even just giving us advice. They help us out so much. We do different fundraisers with them throughout the year, and they just take such great care of us. And I just really want to say to them that we appreciate you guys. I just pray that God will continue to bless you with everything that you do for Albany, Dougherty County community. Also to the Georgia District, Lisa, you're such a sweet person. I always look forward to it. If I ever stop getting your emails about the I may just go to crying because I look forward to her emails, because what you all do for children all over the state of Georgia is just wonderful. And so thank you for all that you do, and truly for this donation. John 15:12 says, "This is my commandment, that you love one another as I love you." And so even through this donation, and you don't know probably half of the kids that you love, half of the kids that you support and take care of, but because you care and because you have a heart to care, you love us, and we thank you. God bless you.
Our third recipient this morning is the Coastal Empire Child Abuse Prevention Foundation Incorporated in Savannah. President of that board is Toby Brown. And Toby and I have been communicating through email and telephone calls for a few months now, but this is the first time I've met him in person. So good to finally see the face with the voice. Welcome, and thank you for all you do. And thank you, Exchange Club of Savannah, for your support.
I think what a lot of Lisa was alluding to there is this was a tough year for CAP in Savannah for us. Maybe about 8 or 9 months ago, we had some changes within our club, and it wound up costing us about half of our board in CAP including our president and vice president. And within that, though, it gave us some opportunities to kind of revamp and rethink about what we do and how we do it. And we refocused our efforts on our Quick Think program, which has always been the centerpiece of what we do. And we wanted to figure out how we deliver that to the second graders in our area. So we raised some more money this year. We had a golf tournament. We got some corporate sponsors, and we had a really good event. We had 23 schools involved. It went over 3 days. But now I think we're getting into the fun part, because we're starting a partnership with Armstrong, which is our local university, and we're working on figuring out how we deliver the product to the kids in the schools and how we can make it more viable to maybe reintroduce it to some of the other areas where y'all stopped the program. So we're hoping, we'll have to get some breaks, but we're hoping that along the way we'll be able to bring the program back that we were always really proud of. So what's fun about getting the check is the check, usually you're just trying to keep things going where you're at, or fund what you're doing, or something that just helps your area. But I feel like this check in particular is an investment in something that could help all of us, so we appreciate it. Thank you.
Next, we will hear from Roland Middlebrooks. Roland is the president-elect of the Exchange Club of Macon and serves on the board for the Macon Child Abuse Prevention Foundation. To tell you a little bit about what's going on in Macon, and thank you so much, Exchange Club of Macon, for your support for the Macon Foundation.
We don't have a center, but we do have a foundation. And since I got back into the responsibility of being an officer with the Macon Club, I was president once before 17 years ago, and it's my turn again, it seems like. So the first thing I wanted to do was get started on real purpose. And for the last 2 years, we have sponsored entirely, well, no, I take that back. Last year, we sponsored entirely the CAP Symposium in Macon. We partnered with the Crescent House, which we also fund additionally through a golf tournament every year and give them about $10,000. And they're part of the medical center, but they lack sufficient funds to buy a certain amount of equipment. So that money that we give them from the golf tournament goes to that. We also, as I said, we sponsored the CAP Symposium, and we had a maximum turnout this past year. And with the medical center's help, the Crescent House's help, we can reach out and really bring in the professional people to talk to us, because they certainly have all those contacts. In fact, our guest speaker this year was from an advocacy program in New Orleans. So it was very good, and we had to turn some people away. In fact, one of the ladies I was sitting there at the table with, Lena, I think he was unable to come because we filled up the auditorium. But we plan to move that next year, and we're going to maybe use the Coliseum, so we'll be able to take on more people. But and Lisa came and made a little speech to us, so I think we all enjoyed that and really learned a lot from it. And we did fund the entire project last year, which was $7,500. And the year before that, we partnered with them, and they paid half of it. But the medical center, like a lot of hospitals, lack the funds now to do those things. So we plan to continue to do that. We're going to do it again this year. We've already have the funds to do that, and I'll be in the part of that leadership in planning the symposium, and I'd like to invite each and every one of you to participate. It's free, doesn't cost you a thing. So put your time to come and spend a day in Macon learning about child abuse prevention. Thank you very much for this gift.
That symposium was unbelievable. Any of you, Virginia people are attended also. If any of you have the opportunity to attend next April, I'm assuming it will be in April, I urge you to take that opportunity, because it will be well worth your time. Our fifth recipient this morning not as tall as Robin, obviously. Our fifth recipient this morning from the Satilla Advocacy Services in Waycross, Georgia. They officially became an affiliate January of 2013. Accepting for the center is Zena Poncel, Child Advocacy Center Coordinator and Prevention Education Coordinator. If you'll come forward, Zena, and thank you so much to the Exchange Club of Waycross for the support of this affiliate.
Thank you. Before I get going, can I go ahead and sign up for that Macon symposium? Because when I did try, it was booked. So what's the earliest we can sign up? Okay. Thank y'all again for that. I received a phone call several years ago when I was volunteering for Satilla Advocacy Services. And as a volunteer, we would go into the emergency room with the child victims, or any victims, but most of our victims were children. And this individual I received the call from is now my supervisor, so now I work for there full time. But she called and said, we have two victims, two children in the emergency room. I said, I'm on my way. So I get up there, and those two turned into four. Four little girls under the age of 9. One was slightly special needs. What had happened was they had gone to the health department for a wellness check. And the nurse was just going over body safety, good touches, bad touches, or safe and unsafe touches. And one of the little girls said, oh, you mean exercise? If you hear the word exercise, would you think anything sexual assault related? Not generally. So from that, the report was made, the children were brought to the emergency room, and every child, all 4 of those babies, had to go through an exam, a medical exam for a sexual assault record. The offender was an 18-year-old who, I think it was a family reunion. Remember, this is like late 90s or early 2000s. I've been around a long time. The offender was 18, and it was either a family reunion he had come down for. He wasn't even from Georgia. Or either it was around Christmas time. Now, a lot of our children are assaulted when big events happen, holidays. Our numbers go up during holidays and things like that, and some of these other agencies can agree with that. There was a man going to work one morning. Thought he saw an injured dog on the side of the road. He stopped. It was a child. She was abducted from her house. I think from her aunt's house. Her mother was into drugs, met this guy. So he had seen the child. Crawled in the bedroom window, kidnapped the child. I think she was around 8. This one's been a few years back. I didn't work this case, but came through our agency, and all these cases rattle our cages a little bit, but and we have ways of coping with that too. But this particular child, 8 years old, he had raped her, he drugged her medically, raped her, slammed her head on the ground several times and left her on the side of the road for dead. This wonderful man found her, got her to the emergency room. She was bleeding profusely, pretty much both victims. My supervisor, who is a forensic nurse, same nurse, sexual assault nurse examiner, found one hair in that area, trying to be nice. And that one hair was his DNA. And he right now is serving time. Last year, we had a case, I've been here before, I'm also a trained forensic interviewer. We did, I believe it was about 15 forensic interviews from a daycare center. Daycare center, the woman that ran it was her husband. Had candy sitting in my lap, he would touch them. About 15 kids. He is now serving 3 life sentences. So that's a little bit about what we kind of do behind the scenes on Satilla Advocacy Services. We are a sexual assault center. Most of our victims are under the age of 12. When we first opened up in 1999, we didn't necessarily have a child advocacy center. We saw children. But when all of our numbers were coming through and all these victims were babies, babies. We then opened up a child advocacy center within Satilla Advocacy Services to focus on the children. We have forensic interviewers at our agency. We have 4 forensic interviewers. We have 2 forensic nurses, sexual assault nurse examiners. I know I mentioned that. We have a therapy component. We work real close with our families. You have a child, you also have parents, grandparents, caregivers around them who need to learn how to cope and to protect and help these children. So we work really close with them to make sure, provide them with coping skills on how to look out for these babies after the fact. Prevention education, which is where you guys come in. How many of y'all have a Stewards of Children class? I need to see a few hands. Stewards of Children, Child Sex Abuse class. Darkness Delight, Stewards of Children? Okay. And if you've had the class, it was probably an eye-opener. And there's a brand new class that has just come out. If you've had it in the past, you need to take it again. Because the other one, I think, was like 3 video segments. This one is 2 video segments. And it actually has more information in it. You get a workbook, a materials book, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about that real quick, to take home with you. The Darkness to Light, Stewards of Children, is one of the main classes that we are really pushing and teaching. It's an adult-only class, and your contribution pays for the materials fee. So I, in our agency, cannot thank you enough. Because as you know, if people have to pay for materials and stuff to go to a class, a lot of them may not show up. Community people, whoever. A lot of them will not come. But if you offer a class for free, some of them are where they can come. And because, again, the funding that you have provided, you are paying for quite a few people to come and take this class, free of charge, to better protect their children. So y'all are making a difference. I want to be sure you know that. You are making a huge difference in families and in lives. Like I said, if you've had the other Stewards class, you need to take the Stewards 2.0 because it has a little bit of additional information in it. And y'all have something to write with because I'm fixing to give you a date and a time on a class that's offered in South Georgia. Y'all ready? The next class in the Waycross area is June the 27th, 9:30 a.m. at the Mayo Clinic Health Systems Annex Classroom. And I know that's probably quite a little bit there. My business card is right up here on the table. I'll be glad to give it to you. You can call me. You can sign up today. I'll write your name down. So we need to know how many's coming so we can make sure we have enough materials that the organization, Exchange Club, is funding so you don't have to pay for it. So anyway, if you haven't taken the class, you need to take it. And you need to talk to people. We need to teach 5% of every population to make a difference, to make a change in the cultural shift in how people think and how they process and how they watch out for children. 5% of the population need to be trained in order to make people more aware of child sexual abuse. And I could go all day, but I know I'm already past my time, so I'm going to shut down a little bit. And thank you very much. Like I said, you are making a difference. And the gentleman that's speaking on Quick Think, where you at? I was a Quick Think coordinator for 12 years, so if you need me, give me a holler, okay? I'll help you out. Thank y'all, and I am going to zip it and roll out. But I am here, I have brochures, and I have our business cards if you need anything. So we really appreciate it.
Thank you, Zena, for all you do. And as she said, by what you've heard from these 5 individuals, we are making a difference. Ronnie Carver announced yesterday in our Georgia District Board meeting that probably within the next few weeks we will have another affiliate in the Douglas area called Sadie's House. So they've been working real hard on that. So thank you so much to your club and your division for going forward with that. So hopefully next year we will have another recipient at the table. So thank you all for what you do. It's now my honor and privilege to introduce our keynote speaker this morning, Scot Fincher. Scot is a native Georgian and lives in East Point. He attended Georgia Southern University. Go Eagles! How appropriate was that? He spent 21 years in corporate America and executive administration position. Scott has served on various boards, including International Radio Association, Jerusalem House, Church Administrative Councils, and was the director of the Socket Toomey Mission for the Homeless. Scott just completed the East Point Citizens Police Academy and is part of the Main Street Association for East Point. In 2005, Scott left corporate America and took an administrative position with Chris Kids. Chris is an acronym for their core values: creativity, honor, respect, integrity, and safety. In the past 9 years, Scott has worked and supported many areas of Chris Kids, and for the past 2 years, Scott is training coordinator for the organization. Please give a warm Exchange Club welcome to Scott Fincher.
Thank you guys so much. It is truly a pleasure to be here speaking with you. Thank you for everything that you guys do in child abuse prevention. I hate to say that it's just rampant out there. Chris Kids, we're located and we serve the Atlanta metro area. And we have care coordinators and family support partners throughout the state also. Start a little bit, I want to especially thank the Hapeville chapter of the Exchange Club. In my world, that's the best one. And then the Georgia Southern, the Eagles, yeah, I went there before they had Eagles. It was a teacher's college back then. A little bit to start off, when I was 5 years old, my parents divorced and I acquired a stepmother. For the next 4 years, she would keep me locked in a closet every other weekend when I went to visit with my dad while he was at work. That was kind of okay, as long as I didn't make a sound. Because if I made a sound, then she'd come in there and she would beat me. So I learned not to make a sound. I'd rearrange her clothes. I peed in her shoes. I always did have that little vindictive part of me. But I was told by her, if ever I breathed a word of that, I would never ever see my dad again, as long as I lived. So it kind of scared me to where I couldn't tell anybody. So I did. Endured it for 4 years. When I was 9 years old, I had gotten home one weekend and I was getting bath. My mom walked in the bathroom and saw marks and bruises that were on me and asked where I got them. Well, I told her I failed. Well, I think she was a little smarter than that because she knew that certain bruises I had couldn't get from a fall. And she called my dad. He came back and I had to open up and actually explain what had happened. I was scared to death because I thought I'd never see my dad again for saying this. Well, got rid of the stepmom. I'm one of the few that can actually say I survived this, and I survived it proudly. A lot of kids don't survive it. But the number one thing that you can survive is you've got to have a huge, very strong support system. You've got to have a lot of love. And that's what I found at Chris Kids. I love what they do. The organization started as an idea with the Atlanta Junior League and the Miniature Foundation. They saw a need for having a group home to provide a safe place for some kids that really didn't quite fit in this foster system. They had been bounced around to all these different foster homes, so they gave enough money for 2 years for 3 group homes. In 1981, Chris Kids was founded, and today we're a $13.5 million operating organization. We have 8 group homes. We have a full counseling center with psychiatrists, psychologists, therapists, all types of clinical workers. We have a 41-unit apartment complex. We used to rent apartments in other complexes, but that wasn't good because anything that ever happened, the apartment manager, well, that's got to be those Chris kids over there. Can't be any of the gangs that were in the apartment. It had to be the Chris kids. They're the ones that did all the damage. So we bought our own apartment complex. It was a crack house, and we had it rebuilt and reconstructed, and we are now one of the first fully green certified multifunctional property in the state. And there's 60 beds because the kids that you guys are trying to teach prevention on, a lot of times they're immediately put into the foster system. Well, unfortunately, we've got some people out there serving as foster parents that really shouldn't be foster parents. Sometimes they can re-traumatize the kid. And then the kid gets bounced and bounced and bounced. And finally, they say, well, the last straw is let's give them to Chris kids and see if they can do anything with them, see if they can heal them. Because if not, then they're going to an institution or a psychiatric treatment facility. So my job at Chris Kids is to train the staff on how to handle abused children. And it is so delicate, but it's mainly with love and compassion. Rarely do we get that back when we dish it out. A lot of times we get a lot of non-compliance, we get aggression, or we get a complete shutdown. But people, when a trauma happens to a child, as someone spoke earlier, it affects the brain. And our brain is really an incredible thing. Some don't use as much of it as they should. But the brain is continuing to develop up to age 24. And now we have got evidence-based practices where we take a child that has been severely abused and traumatized, and we bring that child in and wrap them around with all types of services, positive youth development, cognitive behavior therapy, where you start re-triggering those neurons in the brain. You bring the parts of the brain the child, the trauma has actually shut down. You bring that part back to life, and a person can be a complete, successful, functioning individual and adult. And that's basically what we do at Chris Kids. I'm proud to say one of our board members is one of the first Chris Kids that we had. He is a published author. He has written his journey that he actually took before Chris Kids. And then I want to tell you a little story about a guy that just, man, he was a challenge. His name was Sheldon. We got Sheldon when he was about 11 years old. We got him out of Beaufort, Georgia. He was severely physically abused. He was also sexually abused. But worse than that, he was raised as a Ku Klux Klan. The first outfit he had was a white robe and a hood. And they have baby pictures of him in it. Well, the state finally got Sheldon, and needless to say, in the Atlanta metro area, it was a little bit of a challenge with him going through the foster system because he was very aggressive. He was very mean, just scary, really was. First time I met Sheldon, I was the chief operating officer's assistant at that time, and when kids got in trouble, they had to come up to the boss lady's office and get a come to Jesus meeting. and they had to sit with me before they got to her. So Sheldon looked at me and he's like, "What's your little queer boy state? What's your story?" He was just so derogatory with blacks and gays, and you just saw the hate. You looked in his eyes and it was just empty. Well, I always like to think I've coped through my life with comedy and making light of stuff. So I would always try and just brush it off and, just tell him, "Sheldon, you're just so cute for a little ginger-headed, red-headed boy. Why you gotta be so mean?" And just trying to break down that wall. Well, Sheldon stayed with us for all of the rest of his school years until he aged out of the system. Sheldon graduated one of the top in his class in a little high school called Reading. And you guys are not sure about the area, that was over in DeKalb County. About 98% black. Sheldon went on to join our independent living program, because that's another problem our state has. We're going to help kids up to about 17 and a half, and then the state's like, "Oh, thank God, get them out of our system. We're not giving you another dime. Put them on the street." Guys, 270,000 of the prisoners we have in care in Georgia right now were once in foster care. That's what happens. We let these kids directly out on the street. They either go to the penal system or they go 6 feet under. So we have this independent living program. Sheldon got him an apartment over there. Got a nice little job at a huge furniture place in Atlanta. As a little stock boy, he's now a manager there. He always comes into the office. Every time he's on the property, he has to come in to see Mr. Scott. He gives me a hug now. He's married. He's married to a black lady. They have 3 of the most gorgeous children you have ever laid eyes on. That's the drive that gives me compassion to work and do what I do. And I hope it's a drive as a success story of the good that you do. There are so many wonderful organizations we've heard from already today. I wish we didn't have to have any of those, but I'm so glad that we do, because there's so many successes that come out of those organizations because of the help and because of the love, and then they can become members of the exchange clubs, successful citizens. They can even become politicians if they want to. I think that's just progressing back into mental illness and stuff. Just my view. If they don't get treated, we see what we have on our hands. You have mass shootings, kids going in with guns, not a care in the world. You got these 2 little girls somewhere that stabbed this other kid 20-something times because of some video game or something. Then you have all these homeless people, not just veterans, but you have mentally ill homeless people. And that trauma, when that's not taken care of, it can develop mental illnesses. And they don't have services. They can't get services. Heck, our veterans can't even get service. So we've got to help it. The earlier we catch it, the better chance we have of creating successful human beings and also breaking that cycle that's got to be broken. I still don't like closets. I've never had a door on my closet. I have taken it down every house I've ever been. I can't stand these reality shows where they show these big walk-in closets, but you know, those would be bad because some of them are bigger than my house. I just thought about that. But one thing, if I leave you with anything, is you need to start stepping in instead of stepping away when you see something. Even if you don't know what to do, if you witness or if you see a child in a park or anywhere in your church and you see some really odd bruises, don't think somebody else is going to say something. Please say something. Even if you're wrong, great. I hope you're wrong. But if you're not, we've taught somebody. And guys, perpetrators, whether it's sexual abuse, child abuse, they are some very smart people. They will present themselves and they will groom each and every one of us to think that they are such a pillar of society. They are so perfect. They are the best friend of your family. The kid absolutely loves them. They will groom that child and groom you to where they can continue their abuse and you never even know. So you have to be really paranoid. I hate to say it. We're also stewards of children, darkness to light, facilitators. We offer the class at least once a month on our property. And we also travel throughout the metro area to do the class with you. And again, materials, they do cost. We normally charge $15 for the class, but if it is a class, like my neighborhood, I trained every home on the street I live, and I paid for it because I wanted them to know that my whole street, oh, we're watching. We're bringing unity back into the community, and that's the one thing I want to reiterate with the hateful chapter. They really, truly are bringing unity back into the community. Hateville is really a changed city, and I hope that we can encourage Hateville to be one of the first cities in the state to have trained over 50% of every resident. That's my goal. Again, thank you guys for having me. It has been such a pleasure. Keep on keeping on. And if you ever think you're too small to make a difference, try sleeping in a room with a mosquito.
Scott, we have a small token of our appreciation for you being here with us this morning and for all you do for the children of Georgia.
Thank you so much.
And I'm sure Scott will be around for a little while after breakfast if you wish to speak to him. And then I think he's got to get the room back to 256.
So that Don.
So that Don can get a room with air conditioner. It's a timeshare room. If you don't think you're making a difference, I want to just give you one quick statistic about the economic impact that child abuse has. Thank you, Tina. The short people version. The economic impact that child abuse has in a community of 50,000. How many of you are in communities of about 50,000? Raise your hand. The immediate economic impact would be $348,199. The long-term economic impact is $203,610,000. In a community of 100,000. Show of hands. Immediate, $696,397 long-term impact. $407,220,000. So just keep that in mind. At this time, we're going to play the Time Out Teddy song. It was played when you came in. I'm sure most of you are familiar with it. The lyrics to this song were written by Miss Beth Banks.
Hug me, hold me, keep me safe and sound. Help me, love me, turn my world around. Time out steady is my name, here to keep you safe. No hurts, no bruises, no bad things, in a very happy place. Hug me, hold me, keep me safe and sound. Help me, love me, turn my world around. I'm here to make a difference, here to be a friend. I'm here to grow the future, keep you safe through thick and thin. Love me, hold me, keep me safe and sound. Help me, love me, turn my world around. I'm here to keep you safe, don't want you to be sad. Make the world a happy place and be very, very glad. Hug me, hold me, keep me safe and sound. Help me, love me, turn my world around.
Bill, if you'll be making your way up here, please be seated. As most of you know, Dad passed away September 18th to 13th. She was not only the author of this song, of the lyrics of this song, and she was not formally a member of Exchange, but in every way, she was a member of Exchange in every other way. Bill, we'd like to present this to you and your family. With our love, appreciation, and gratitude to Bill Banks and family for sharing your beloved Beth with us, her legacy lives on. In loving memory of Mrs. Beth Banks, May 20th, 1945, September 18th, 2013, presented on the 7th day of June, 2014, the Georgia Exchange Foundation for the Prevention of Child Abuse Incorporated and the Georgia District Exchange Clubs. And this is a framed copy of the CD and a picture of Beth with Time Out Teddy.
As most of you know, Beth went to be with our Lord September the 18th. We've had some fine ladies in our club in the district that have gone on to prepare the way. And I thank you for this. It means so much to me. But I have to attribute our minister of music, Mark Willard, at Sherwood Baptist Church in Albany, Georgia, for writing the music. And for those of you that don't know about Sherwood Baptist Church, we have been known as the Picture Church. We have 4 films out under Sherwood Pictures. You have not seen Flywheel, Facing the Giants, Courageous, or Fireproof, that you have missed a treat. My wife loved Exchange. She wanted to, actually she didn't want to be a member, but she was a member. just as a lot of our ladies are and our spouses are. So thank y'all. This means a lot. I know she's smiling down on us this morning. It's just a bit too much for me. Thank y'all.
My apologies, I got through it as best I could. At this time, Rollins gone? He's opening doors. Barney, can you step to the front? If anybody has a donation they'd like to make at the Cap Center, to the Cap Foundation this morning, we'll be more than happy to take it. Please remember the silent auction room is open until 2:45. Please make your final bids as soon as the youth luncheon is over today. Thank you again to all our golfers, our live auction donors, as well as any of you who bought anything. You need to pick up your items at the silent auction by 3:30 this afternoon. Don't forget the quilt raffle. The quilt Betty Lindsay made is in the silent auction room. 3 for $10. The TV raffle is also in there. 6 for $5. And I'm almost sure everybody in this room knows this because we're preaching to the choir. But please be aware that Darkness Delight is an affiliate of National Exchange. And that was done, I think, 2 or 3 years ago, Don? So we are fully behind Darkness Delight in a national way, in a big way. The Exchange Club of Albany is coming forward, I believe.
A check for $1,000.
For $1,000. Thank you, Albany, for all you do.
On behalf of the Exchange Club of Valdosta and our 20 members, it is my pleasure to present a check to the Georgia Cap Foundation to the amount of $800. We also sponsored 2 holes in the golf tournament.
Valdosta has, per capita, probably been our biggest supporter through the years, based on, of course, their membership numbers, and they work so hard down there. Thank you so much for what you do.
Go Dogs! Go Exchange!
At this time, I will turn the program back over to our district president, Kevin. We thank you again for all you do.